Okay, so we just completed. You guys need to have on your paper at some point, this is quadratic formula, yes? So we have derived the quadratic formula. We have it here. This is what it is. Now, we have A's, B's, and C's. Those come from where?
The original.
The original. There's some conditions that have to be on it. Just like we can't factor until it's equal to 0, we can't use the quadratic formula until it's equal to 0. So once we set it equal to 0 and write it in the correct order, A is there, B is there, C is there. On your assignment, I want you to identify A, B, and C today, okay? Now, looking at this quadratic formula, you went through this with me. You saw how completing the square just gave this to you, didn't you?
Yeah.
Now, you are not, again, going to have to do that, but you will have to know the quadratic formula. I'm not going to give it to you on a test. I'm not going to tell it to you during the test. You have to know it.
The entire thing.
The entire thing.
Only the first.
Now, look at the front part. Look at this right here, guys. What was this? When
B.
we subtracted over here. What is that?
That is the one thing that we did before.
Find your x of h.
To try your x, to find the x or the h in vertex form, right?
Yeah.
It finds that. This is where it comes from. Okay? So, in the square root, this all came from completing the square. This is called the radicand. The stuff under the radical is called a radicand. Any radical, that's what it's called. Okay? The stuff under any radical, with there's a square root, a cube root, an 18th root, is called a radicand. Okay? So, we will plug our numbers in here, and when we are done, we will have 0 answers, 0 real answers, 1 real answer, or 2 real answers. Now, when I said 0 real answers, that doesn't mean we can't have an imaginary, correct? So you may have some imaginaries, but are those x-intercepts? Are imaginary numbers x-intercepts? No, but they're solutions. They're just not real ones. Does everyone have the formula written down?
No.
I suggest you write it many times today, because the more you write it, the better it's going to be.
Just the top one or like everything else?
This is all you need. I told you guys
I'll
that from the
write down whole
beginning.
thing.
I do not
She
want you
said
to write, I
don't
said,
need
do
to.
not write down those things. I told you that at the very beginning. All I want you to have on your paper is that. You are never going to be asked to do this again. You could say, where does it come from? Well, it came from completing the square, didn't it?
So we
But
don't use the original either? Or
No.
we do with the original?
Well, it has to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, which is standard form, yes? And that's a c, not an e. So it has to be in standard form, but other than that.
Are you good, Austin?
No,
Maybe listen.
I did. I just didn't follow.
So don't hang on him, okay? We only do mistakes.
No, just me.
Only because she made the same one.
Yeah. You made jazz and donuts. That's a mistake.
No, that was epic and you know it.
She just wanted to go.
That's exactly what I did.
Free donut.
Yeah, I know.
Buying donuts. So
Actually, it'll probably be about 2 donuts a pop by the time that everybody quits staging.
Austin, you done yet?
Yeah.
but it'll be an
Okay.
epic donut
Thanks.
presentation.
You're right.
Okay, so it says solve using the quadratic formula. I could solve any problem using quadratic formula completing the square, but I can only factor when that factoring works, right? So later on in the assignment, it says choose whatever method you would like to use. So you could use all 3. And if it's one that's factored, you could do it all 3 there too. Okay, so I have 3x squared minus 4x minus 9. So A is,
3.
and I want you to write this, B is
-4.
-4,
C is -9.
and C is
-9.
-9. The quadratic formula is x equals
Negative B.
negative b
Plus or minus
plus or minus
that thing.
the square root
B squared
b
minus
squared
4.
Minus
4ac
And then
over
all over
2.
2a. So I just plug it in. So when it says negative b, that means always the opposite sign, correct? Because I multiply by -1. So I have -4 times -1 is 4 plus 4 squared is 16 minus 4 times A times C. All over 2 times A. After I plug it in, I'm just simplifying an equation. That's it. So the hardest part about this whole thing is remembering the formula.
Not it. You can't pick up to 3 or 5.
Which one?
Three.
So the.
Okay, so I
bottom
have-
would be 6.
I have 12 times 9 is what?
Oh,
108.
108. And a negative makes it a
Positive.
positive. So this is 108 plus 16. So I have 4 plus or minus the square root of 124
Yes.
all over 6.
Because you always say, I'm big brain.
Okay, so 124, I know 4 goes into 24, so 4 goes into the whole thing, and 4 is a perfect square, so I have a good place to start, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so 4 is 31, and 31 is going to be prime.
Yeah.
So square root of 4 is 2. Now, I can remember this numerator is a quantity, yes? So unless I can factor out, I can't reduce. So can I factor something out of the numerator?
No.
A 2.
2.
So I'd have 2, and then 2 plus the square root of 3 over
Yeah.
6. So now 2 goes into 6.
It does
3
go into
times.
6, you're correct.
I'm going to go into my other problem. So I get 2 plus or minus the square root of 3 over 3. Now, there are 2 answers there. I said plus or minus and it didn't take. There are 2 answers there, yes?
Yeah.
There's 2 plus the square root of 3 divided by 3 and 2 minus the square root of 3 divided by 3. So this parabola hits the x-axis in 2 places. Now, are they whole numbers? Are they rational numbers? No. But are they real? Yes.
Yeah.
I could probably do that.
Okay.
If I had someone following me.
So I have x squared minus 9x plus 27.
A is.
Set it equal to 0.
I've already is 0. Okay.
A is what?
A is 1.
B is?
Negative 9.
And C is?
27.
Yeah, I'm smart.
So x squared, what is the quadratic formula?
X
Negative B.
Negative b plus or minus that thing, b squared minus 4ac over.
I don't know what that thing is.
The square root
So square root
of b squared plus minus 4.
AC and then over 2a. Everything's over 2a.
Okay, so plug
like
it in.
I said. I've been doing it this entire time.
Do you have plugged in yet?
I do have
No,
it
don't
plugged
do
in
it.
or
Don't
written down.
plug it in yet? Okay.
No, it's about to die. It needs plugged in.
Okay.
So you should have 9. Why is it 9?
And that's B.
Because
Not
it's
because it's a negative.
negative.
It's a negative B.
Negative.
And then you have 81 minus 4 times 1 times 27
27 times.
Over.
over
All
2.
times 1.
Okay, so that's going to be 8 carry 2, 108.
Yes.
108. 81 minus.
So
108.
9 plus or minus the square root. So 27,
Negative
negative 27?
Why is it? Oh, it's
If she said so.
20. Over 2.
No, it's not because I said so.
Yes.
It's negative because the 108 is negative.
I see that.
Wait, what
did you
do there?
The square root of negative.
What I just took I took 4 times 27 is 108. So 81 minus 108 is negative 27.
Oh crap.
And then you.
Okay. Everyone good till there?
Yeah.
Okay. So 27 is 9 square root of 3, or 9 and 3.
It'll be 3 times
We can do
So it's 9 plus or minus 3 square root of 3
Over 2.
I don't know.
I.
I.
I'm sorry for reading it too much. The word.
Okay.
stop.
So, gotta do the I, right? Now, do I have any real solutions here? No, but do I have solutions?
Why do you have to put the I there?
Because you have a negative square root.
Because of less than 2.3.
Okay, so now, well, you've been doing that the last 2 days too. Anytime you had a negative square root, you had
Yeah,
i's.
but
Hell, it
I
hasn't.
just feel like I won't remember that.
Okay,
I'm
So-
gonna
Yeah,
know.
you will and you will.
No.
so can I leave my answer like this when I have an I there?
Yeah.
Sure.
No, I have to divide it up into real and imaginary, right?
Yes.
So it has to be 9 halves plus or minus 3 square root of 3 over 2 I. Anytime I have a square root of it or an even root of a negative number, there's going to be an I there to take care of the negative, right? Good?
Yep.
Okay, so 2x squared plus 6x plus 3. Solve using the quadratic formula.
I got this, okay?
You guys want to try this one
Yeah.
all on your own?
Yeah,
Okay.
because there's. Wait.
There's
I
no,
can try.
No.
do it.
There's no.
Write down the formula again. Do your A, B's, and C's. I want to see that on your homework.
I think I remember my A, B, and C's.
What even is ABC?
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
You didn't say
Guys,
it
what
would be
you
no.
I thought it was CYS.
Have it just A, B, and G.
Okay,
Oh,
shush,
maybe.
shush, and work.
Okay, I forgot to write it down. Quadratic formula. That's easy.
Make sure you write the formula again so you remember it. So you start taking it from short-term memory to long-term memory. This is a formula that you will never be allowed to forget.
Forget what?
Like area, the rectangle. You gotta know it.
Yeah, it's like
No,
4 times
not two.
half the 8
The
times
second
9.
last step. No.
Kayla, you need to stop that.
Square root of 12.
I forget what to do
The math that is in front of you. Honestly, that all you have to do is.
not that
Oh.
right there. I'm at my own point. And
Oh, okay. 'Cause at this point, it's just do the math that's in front of
same
you.
thing.
Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so what do I do first?
Multiply 3
Multiply the
times
4, 2, and
2.
3.
Okay, so that gives me 24, yes?
Negative 24.
Well, yes,
Okay.
but then what do I do?
You do 36 minus 24.
I do 36 minus 24.
And you're 2 times 2 on the bottom.
So I get the square root of 12.
Yes.
Should be 3 and 4.
Okay,
Four is
and
perfect.
look for perfect square in 12. 3 and 4.
4 is a prime, so it's 2
4 is a
times
perfect
square
square.
root of 3.
Yep.
That's what I meant.
I know. So negative 6 plus or minus 2 square root of 3.
Or all of
Okay,
4.
wait.
That's where I'm at right now, and I'm stuck.
Why did you do 2 and 3?
Because 2 and 3 equal 12.
Because 4
Because
times
4
3, 4 is just 1 and 4, 2 and 2.
Because this 12 is 4 times 3. Yes?
Yeah.
What's the square root of 4?
2.
2. And the square root of 3 is the square root of 3. We don't know it.
Okay, makes sense. I just put the 4 instead of
Okay? So now remember this numerator is a quantity. Yes?
Yes.
Does it have something in common that could reduce?
2.
2, because there's 2 in the numerator and there's obviously 2 in the denominator, right?
Yes.
So factor out of 2, leave the negative in there. We usually take it, but leave it because it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, and now I can reduce the 2 and the 4. So I get negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 all over 2. Now I don't have to separate this one up because it's not a complex number, is it? It doesn't have an I in it, so I can leave it like this. It's certainly fine. But are there 2 answers here?
Yes.
Yeah, because you have negative 3 plus the square root of 3 and negative 3 minus the square root of 3. So there are 2 answers there. Are they rational answers?
Yes.
No.
No. They have a square root of 3. They are not rational. They're irrational answers. I wouldn't know that without a calculator, correct? But are they answers?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, that wasn't 2.
Now, if I said solve this, you'd go 3 times 7 is 21. Factors of 21 that add to 2. Is that possible?
No.
No. So I couldn't factor. I could complete the square or the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula.
Gotta have A, B, and C.
Yes, gotta have your A, B, and C.
I know none of you care, but I just wrote the formula without looking.
So did I.
Me too.
Good. Doesn't that make you feel good? Because, like, to me, that's the hardest part of this.
They did what?
I mean, to be honestly, is that the hardest part of this? Because you can get it and just maybe not know to do the square root of 12, but you still got the concept. So, good job. I
Thanks.
care. Thank
Even
you
though
for
I
sharing.
didn't do it.
Took me. I don't know how long, but
I don't think I did this right.
Well, we'll get
Hey,
it.
Alright.
If you do it stuck, I'm good now.
No. Austin.
What you want?
I could have stopped.
You times something. You know that.
What?
If you've got the formula filled in, you honestly just do the math. Do the math that is in front of you. Follow your order of operations.
Yeah, it's 2, 3.
Why is this so? Oh, never mind.
Well,
Good?
3 times 2. There's this new thing called 6.
I forgot what 12 times 7 was.
84. I just had to do it in my head.
I'm like, I know there's a fourth end of it, but I forgot, like.
Just do 11 and add. Do 11 times 7 and add 7.
You know, I do that all the time. If I don't know one,
I got it.
add it.
Literally.
Not all of them.
Well,
Come on, give me
I'm
close.
looking good.
Beer mall.
Yes? No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you
Yeah,
get the
okay.
two?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I know what you're doing next.
Well, Natalie
Wait.
was too.
Wait,
Oh, I was doing A. That, okay.
I'm like, where'd I get the 2 from?
Yeah, I'm literally just.
Don't
Should
worry,
have
I
plugged
started
that
to do
in,
that
so
last
it is.
time.
Literally.
Wait, hold on. Oh, I see.
Now, guys, when you say hold on, stop and look and find your mistake, and I'm glad I hear, oh, I found it. Find those mistakes so we don't make them again. So 80,
8 and 10.
8 and 10.
2,
How about we start with 4 because that's at least a perfect square.
4 and 20.
4 and 20.
4 and 20.
Why did I
Wait, is
say
it
4
real?
Okay, shh. 4 and 20, and then 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a pair of 4s, so I can just bring out a 4, right? Or if I do the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of 4 is 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. So either way, right? What's this negative going to give me?
Uh,
Nine. So I have 2 plus or minus 4 square root of
5.
5
I.
I over 6. Now I'm just going to divide this up because since I have to divide it up to make it a standard form complex number, I can reduce after I divide it up, right? So I have 2 over 6 plus or minus 4 square root of 5 over 6 I. Now you could have factored a 2 out of the top and then reduced it and then divided it if you want. It doesn't matter. You just got to do it. So then I have what?
1/3.
1/3 plus or minus 2 square root of 5 over 3. Now remember, guys, you can't reduce things out of the inside of a square root. The radicand, you can't reduce that because the order of operations says I have to take the square root of it first, right? And if I can't take the square root of it, I can't divide it. So it's just there.
Natalie, move your big head, please.
So x equals. So I have 2 imaginary solutions. So this graph probably, well, this goes up, right? It opens up, this parabola. So that means the vertex went up somehow, right?
So we don't have any
It doesn't have any x-intercepts because I got unreal solutions. That means there's no x-intercepts, doesn't it?
Yeah.
100%.
See, this isn't
There's
that
no
far.
real solution.
No real solution. How many solutions are here?
2.
2 real. How many rational?
0.
0.
So
These
you don't
are
know what the square root of 3 is.
square root of 3 is an irrational number, so there's 2 real, but there's no rational solutions.
So it can be irrational and real at the same
Yes,
time.
it can be irrational and real, but it
But
can't. It can't be irrational
And not real.
and wait. It can't be imaginary
Okay,
and real.
But it can be irrational.
I don't know if this makes sense, but this is easier to me than completing the square.
Yes.
Like,
Honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, when I complete the square, the only time I complete the square is to write something in vertex form. I never complete the square in order to solve an equation. I don't ever.
I don't like
Because and there are some people, I have never met a person who just chooses to complete the square. They will factor or use the quadratic formula. Now I've had to use completing the square in like really weird situations, but it's not a normal thing to do unless you are putting it into vertex form so you can graph it. So,
What? Who wouldn't want to grab?
okay, use 2 different methods.
No.
Okay, so they made 3 choices, yes, are to just factor, complete the square, or quadratic formula. So when you are doing these, if you can factor, you're obviously going to choose factoring as for one of yours, correct? But if you cannot factor, your 2 choices are going to have to be completing the square and quadratic formula. Well, then you need to come get some help. Okay, so we're going to test if we can factor. Okay, so if we test we can factor, we have to do A times C, yes? So of negative 120. So I need the factors of 120 that have a difference of 7.
12 and 10.
12 and 10?
But you don't have the
Shoot.
Okay, 10 and 12,
No.
they don't work.
Pretty close, Isaiah.
I was giving it an example, but it don't work.
Okay, so I can break it down to 2 times 5 times 2 times 2 times 3, yes?
What?
I did prime factorization, guys. 2 times 5 is 10, yes?
Yeah.
And 12 is 4 times 3, which is 2 times 2 times 3. Okay, by doing that, I can rearrange those numbers in any combination I want to see if I can get, it shows me that I'm using. Okay, now, in order for me to get an odd number when I subtract, I have to have an odd number involved, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That just is it. So the only way I'm going to take any of these two numbers and have an odd number involved is have 5 and 3. Yes? Because 2 times 5 would be even, 2 times 3 would be even. I could have 5 and I could have 3, but that's going to be way more difference than 7, correct? So what is 5 times 3? 15. And 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So it's going to be negative
Yeah.
15 and positive 8.
6.
So, am I going to use factoring for one of my methods? Yes, but if I didn't want to mess with that, could I have just done quadratic formula and completing the square and not even had to mess with that process?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you see the value in quadratic formula?
Yes.
I will tell you a problem like this, I would just immediately go to quadratic formula probably.
So,
Okay.
it tells you to use 2 different methods.
If there's directions that says do 2 different methods, so you have factoring, quadratic formula, and completing the square to choose from.
So you have to do 2 different.
2 of, yes.
So you have to have 2 different, 2